Okay, well, let's get started. Stephen, would you mind just giving us a brief history for those of you, those of us that don't know you, uh, kind of your history up to recordBar, I guess, and your new bands?
Oh gosh, I'm not good with brief. I never have been.
Yeah,
I
that's
kind of
fine.
need a curator,
Uh-huh.
an editor. Um, uh, I've been making music since the late '80s, and started in the Kansas City area and did in underground punk rock bands and stuff like that. And toured quite a bit. Got signed in the early '90s. Put a couple records out on Columbia with a band called Season to Risk, and then put a couple more independent records out. Then I started another project that put an independent record and did quite a bit of touring, and then we opened the recordBar in 2005. I was super fast forward from '89 to 2005, but always been, even before that, was promoting like independent underground shows around the city at different places, and always had my fingers in the stuff, and decided at a certain age I needed to do something that kept me home a little more, and we opened the club. And we were in Westport area for Kansas City for about 10 years, and then we lost our lease and we moved downtown. We've been down there almost 5 years, and we're kind of going into our 15-year anniversary. And when COVID hit, it was actually the best first quarter we'd ever had and then we haven't done anything since then. Well, we have, but we can talk more about that later. I don't know. Does that sum it up pretty quick? That was fast. Oh, I'm missing you. I don't hear you, Bo.
Okay, yeah, I got to push the button. Yeah, I was working with Dwayne Trower last night, and he was telling me some good road stories.
Oh gosh, you got good ones.
Well, tell us about, I mean, you guys put together something really, really quickly with it was Voltaire, right?
Correct.
Tell us about Lemonade Park, please.
So Wes Gardner is a good friend of mine. He is the chef owner of Voltaire, with his partner Joe Myers, and he also is a musician, played drums in Doris Henson, and had done his fair share of road work. And he actually worked in the recordBar kitchen when we first opened way back in 2005. And he just called me out of the blue and said, I've got the lease on this parking lot. I've got to do something. We've got to do something. I want to do live music. I got some ideas. I want you guys to be involved. And I'll be honest, I told him he was crazy. I'm like, and it was right. I was seeing this thing drag out, and I'm like, we don't have any capital. We don't have anything to invest in this, Wes. And he's like, I want to do it. I'm going to make it happen. I've got some ideas that, this can be something that we can use for the restaurant as well. Not on days we do shows, and maybe it's something that we can use into post-COVID years, et cetera, et cetera. So I just want you to be involved, and so I started booking it for him, and it's 12,000 square feet. And for people that haven't been there, don't know, it's 12,000 square feet parking lot. We only allow 120 guests about. So, you're taking your distancing from your standard 7 square feet per person to about 100 square feet per person. So there's room to find a space where you feel safe. And we have it signed up, and we have, quite a, the rules, and we hold them to task on them. And we've been going since the end of July every weekend. And so far it's been really successful. Successful in that we haven't had any incidences. We haven't had any anti-masker fights. We haven't had any anybody that's contracted it that we know of. There's no cash. Everything is credit card. So we do have contact tracing there on your ticketing, and if anything does come of it. But so far it's been really successful. The bands have enjoyed it. It's quite a large stage. And I mean, financially it's kind of break even at best. But it's kept us active. It's kept some of our employees working, given some money, put some money in the band's hands. So that's really the number one goal, is just to keep some sanity and a little bit of community and a little bit of money moving to people that need it.
Well said. Who put together the stage and tent work? I've been there a couple of times and was really impressed by how well it sounded. I loved the truck stage, the whole vibe of the thing, the way that the artificial grass has things partitioned off. It's very, very smart. And who did that?
I can take no credit for it. Wes kind of had a little bit of a vision, and he brought in, he put the little crew together, which John O'Brien, I don't know if you're familiar with John O'Brien.
Oh,
he
yeah.
helped design, so many restaurants and places around the city. He helped Record Bar when we first moved downtown. He kind of had the vision, and him and Wes kind of worked together, and they did it on, next to no budget. I'm going to feel terrible. I don't remember the guy's name who donated the truck. He's a,
I think that's Randy's truck, isn't it?
no, it's Bart or Bert. Oh gosh, he's a visual artist. He is he has a gallery out on East Truman. They have a big kiln out there. Oh gosh, it's terrible. But it was his truck. It was sitting out there in the yard, and he said they had to tow it down there. He's like, "You guys can use this." And we talked about the depth and stage, and it's a little bit larger than Record Bar's stage. It's about 4 feet wider and about 2 feet deeper. And then the PA is half Record Bar stuff, half Voltaire stuff that we just cobbled together. And we're using Record Bar sound guys down there who are all really great. Buzz and Paul and Andrew. And then the West found some chairs that were like, this guy his bar had closed, and these old Roddy chairs, and he took all the pads off of them, built those benches out of it. I think that was John's idea too. He's like, and it just looks really neat, I think. And the accent lighting and the cool footlights on the stage, I really love how it turned out.
Yeah, I love the accent light on the cab of the truck. It looks really good.
Yeah, everybody came in and did everything for, donations pretty much, some beer, and we had Harry Anderson's electrical crew came in and did the electric legit. It's, pulled it proper, and it's got more power than I think the Record Bar stage does, actually. So
wow, that's impressive.
Pretty happy with it. I think it'll be a permanent fixture. It'll be around for years to come, I think, in some form.
Okay. I'm seeing that a lot. All of the things that people are kind of adapting very quickly, they want to keep permanently as a sort of an extension of what they're already doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like my series, we're doing a whole lot of outdoor concerts and live streams. And yeah, there's no reason we can't just attach that to what we're already doing.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, as a venue owner, let's hear, I'm always curious to know, I'm a performing artist myself, what venue owners look for when they're partnering with an artist to hire.
Record Bar, I don't know, but I feel like I take a pretty unique position in it. I like all kinds of music, and I've always been very open and to a wide variety of genres and sounds and people. I want to search and find those things that are different and unique. But I also try to be conscious, economically conscious too. I want to have enough avant-garde and wild things to keep my interest, but I also know that, okay, I've got to do a cover band from time to time. But if I'm going to do a cover band, I want to make sure it's something that's really good, that has has flavor, has vibe. I don't know if that completely answers it all, but I think from the get-go, my goal was to make sure that we did a variety of things to keep it really to keep it interesting for me. It's kind of my brain, so it's a little selfish in some ways. But as far as looking for them, you were mentioning that some of the things earlier before we started the call. I mean, it's so hard to say. I think it's so personal, you know, and then sometimes that I try to be aware of it. Like, you know, are you being a gatekeeper? Are you keeping, you know, making sure that you open the doors to enough people, different people, that you can, I don't know, keep learning and keep hearing new things. That's kind of where my head is. And so I just, if it's not, I mean, not everything's 100% original, but if it doesn't have something that I feel when I go listen to their links, like I'm way more of the person that, like, first I look, like, send me a link. I like to see a video. And if it's live is fine. Sometimes mostly better than you know, music videos. And it's usually a little, like, farther down the list is, okay, how many people they have on Facebook, or how many clicks do they have? That I definitely learned to start looking at that at one point, you know, after we've been open for a while, but I didn't, because that also that doesn't just tell me how many people that fans they have. It tells me how hard they're working and how connected they are, and how hard they'll help in partner and promotion and stuff, you know. So that's down on my list, but for me, it starts out pretty personal. So I don't know if that answers that. But.
So front and center is is a live work sample, if you can get it.
Live work sample is always kind of the best. Yeah. And then, you know, pre-recorded, you know, studio recordings and music videos sometimes for, you know, they sometimes give me a vibe of what their artistic expression is, which I like to see as well, because then I kind of know, I don't know, it just gives me a vibe of their creative drive a little bit, you know, but it's not imperative for, I mean, not all genres. That's not really a thing in every genre, you know, but if I'm looking at something that's a little more mainstream in its presentation, pop or hip hop, or you know, those acts that aren't really in my wheelhouse of day-to-day listening, I like to see that expression to kind of get a vibe, you know, because that's really that's the main medium in a lot of those genres. You know what I'm saying? Makes sense?
Of course. Well, if anyone has any questions for Stephen, please, you can start typing them in the chat or just pipe in. I'm going to ask one more question. I always want to know from club owners, just the horror stories of band submissions. And I know you probably have lots of them.
I see one in the chat from Diane.
Mm-hmm.
It says, I guess everybody can see the chat, so I don't need to read it, but I do. I mean, I'm kind of an optimist, and I've been heavily invested in the Kansas City music scene since the late 80s. And back in the day when we were touring constantly and signed to a major label, we went on, I mean, we were everywhere, and we worked a lot. I mean, that was our MO, was to just work and be on the road. And people are always like, why do you live in Kansas City? Why do you live in Kansas City? And we constantly cheerleaded it. Our records always had Kansas City proud printed right on the back. And for us, it was, I mean, I don't know how much it was kind of like a ego, but we were like, it's right in the middle of the country. We can tour constantly. We can do a month over here. We can do a month over here. We can do quick weeks up and down. We can do all these, and we can get out and in. And it was affordable, and it was easy to find rehearsal spaces. And I know things have changed since then, but they're not quite as easy, but I still think the resources are there. And then more and more, I don't know if it's because of that, but we have more and more resources like this, like Heart Lung Network or MMF or well, two examples, but there are resources for bands to help them find the resources to make the things work. So to me, that just totally is a sign that it is sustainable musical ecosystem. Now, I don't, as far as, I also came out of, the kind of punk rock underground thing where, we always, there were a few years because of a major label, I didn't have to have a job, but I've always worked a job, I've always worked a job and done music. So I know that's not everybody's case. So I don't know how to really answer on that front. And I think that's a great, it would have been awesome to always have that, but I don't know how to answer that. If that's the deeper side of that question. Can you make a living only as an artist and not have to do the side hustle? Well, but I think that's pretty much everywhere.
Cool. Bill's got a good question there.
How do you publicize upcoming shows? Will Facebook continue to be a viable platform for musicians and bands? Every day I say I'm getting off Facebook, but it is, I think, right now it is, I have a feeling we're going to see some big changes in the next couple of years and different ways for promoting and promotions, but by and large, print media was the thing for years and years and years. And we spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars a week on print media between all the different, and that was kind of like an interesting thing. Like that was like, well, you spend this money, then they have their content. And I don't want to talk anything down on print media. It was the system, right? So that's how you kind of assured your content showed up in there, or at least that was the psychology of it. We pay you money for a little strip ad, and then there's that. And then social media came along, and we did both for a while. We weren't really spending much money on social media, and more and more we saw the direct to customer. We could track it. You actually could see when your ad, you just really couldn't, and the price point was just so different. And it's in a way it's a shame, because some of those papers they're institutions, and they have more than just, they had deeper content that I think is good for a community, and we have to figure out how to support that as well, I think. But as far as advertising goes, that's the thing that I think that we're going to see some major changes in. Like, how do you make, because our margins are so slim, it's like, well, you kind of go, well, we have to give up these things that we can't track, that aren't viable. And I think things like Facebook gave us something a little more tangible, where we could go, okay, well, that made sense to spend that much. Or if you do spend it, it's trackable also to the agent, trackable to the artist, trackable to everybody, to see that what's working and what's not, and helping form your payout structure, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know what the next thing is. I think Facebook has got a lot of problems, and I think you're going to see major changes, but I think possibly you're going to see more almost like TV, radio type ads that that clubs like us couldn't afford. But I think you're going to see more of that on your streaming, on your YouTube, on your all that kind of thing, because that's the next wave. And COVID's really proved that people are willing to do that and interact with art and music through those mediums. And I think the entry level to that for commercials is going to be a lot more affordable than buying an ad on the Buzz or the radio station or one of your main. So I don't know. It's all in flux, but that's my thoughts.
Diana, you had a good question about what components are we missing in KC to make it more viable for venues and artists to stay here?
I don't know the answer to that question. You know, when I think about what Kansas City is missing, I think really it really doesn't connect with that question. Yeah, I don't really have a question for that, sadly. I mean, an answer for that. And yes, I agree. Community radio is a great resource for getting the message out. We definitely try to utilize that as much as possible. And our local radio has been great here. I think we have like, I think we have a lot of we have a lot of tools in our community for being viable. I don't know what we're missing, other than like, I think we're missing a venue between Record Bar and Truman size. I think we need something like that to attract, but that's attracting some different tours that really doesn't have a lot to do with the community, other than bringing in certain level of artists on there.
Is that the elusive 500 seater?
Yep.
Yeah, boy, say that again.
Yeah, 5 or 6. And we looked for it when we were moving, and we looked hard, but we just didn't find the right space that we could fit our budget.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else have any questions for Stephen?
Hey, so I got a question for you, Steve. Hi there. I've been, super impressed with what you guys have done and what a lot of other folks have been doing to sort of adapt to all this. And Bo and I have talked a little bit about this, and this is working great while the weather's still good. Do you have any thoughts about how we might proceed this winter?
This is where I just break down and start crying.
Maybe your second thing, like you do that first, and then what would your next thought be?
So we have a pretty great, I mean, I don't think this is the prime option, but we do have a pretty great streaming setup over there at Record Bar. We've done a handful, but it hasn't been we probably could have booked one every weekend if we wanted to, but we're still also like indoors. We're still trying to make sure that our staff had the safest options to earn a living. So we've kind of veered away from those, and when it was pretty much just the band and me and the sound guy and the video guy, things are getting a little. Things are changing, and I don't really have the most up to date information on what's going on with the virus and cases and stuff. We did do a private party there a couple weeks ago. It was all all friends and family, and we only allowed, there was 35 people in there, and we had, I think, 4 staff members. Everybody's masked. We had some of the same rules a lot of the same rules we're doing at Lemonade, but we are indoors. We have, added a lot of things, like you can touchless, I don't know what they call them, on the doors, kick doors. We're getting some touchless sinks. We're looking at UV lights for the return air and stuff. Fingers crossed, I had a pretty great letter, or a positive email with the Missouri CARES Act grant application I put in months ago, and I think that goes through. That's going to help us fund all that stuff. And then the idea is maybe we're doing kind of like what we're doing down there. It's like 40 tickets, and this is a table. We're using the restaurant guidelines, and there's a table of 6 here, a table of 4 here. There's 3 2-tops, etc. Where everything is super distance. There's nothing by the bar. I mean, we're researching it right now. We've measured everything. We've kind of put the chairs up. And it'll all be reserved tickets. It's going to be a higher price, but it's not the solution. It's just a possible option. I mean, it doesn't, doing those numbers doesn't hit the, I mean, the overhead's just outrageous down there. It's one of the things we're thinking about. I think there are enough people, surprisingly, and enough people that either have had it or been close enough to someone that had it that didn't get it. That there are some people that have a little more, I don't know, this is a tough one. I don't know. There may or may not be enough tickets. It may not be, I don't know. We just want to make sure we do it safe. And so we're going like this every day. Is this something that we can add so we can, more concerned about getting some money into the employees' hands, and then we have to cover our lease until tours come back, until there's a vaccine. There's just still so many unknowns. So this is where I break down and cry. No, that's the only thing that we've come up with so far. Is just super limited, higher ticket, and then buffering it with streaming. We just partnered with a new streaming company called Promo Stream that has a pretty great system for with a paywall for streaming shows. It's a new company called Promotix. These guys had worked for different ticketing agencies, and they're the first fee-free ticketing company. So there's no, extra fee on top. They earn their money through apps that we add onto our account, whether it be emailing or streaming or et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about working with them. I've got to navigate my Eventbrite contract, which is almost up, but it's been a little bit of a nightmare. I don't want to talk too much crap on that, but
please.
The ticketing things that they're really weird, especially right now with Eventbrite. Pretty much just fired everybody, and there's no help at all. I had to get on social media about a month ago and just start talking shit on them to get someone to finally reach out to me. And the person that reached out to me, the two people that reached out to me are people that got fired, and they're like, man, we want to help, and so they went and hunted down the one person that could get on the phone with me, and it took a minute, but
okay, I'm calling you tomorrow.
Okay.
I need to know more about this promo tickets.
I think you'd
awesome. Yeah, please. We've got some good questions from Ralph, Jessica, and Patrick there, kind of in the chat. These are kind of amazing.
Underground cave or airplane hangar. That's where we started back in the late 80s. Doing underground cave shows and warehouse. Okay, I'm trying to see. I don't have my readers. Yes. Sorry, in the past. You're getting nothing for next year. I see Ralph's one there. That's where I'm at. We have recordBar pretty much booked until December of next year. The agents have kept calling and nonstop. They've moved for us, but I mean, I've had to actually, it's interesting. There are some agents that have kind of just paused, but by and large, all the tours we had that we had to cancel got moved. And they're all starting to announce dates. They're all starting to get a little more comfortable. I think it's a positive sign, whether it's just optimism or just trying to work. I don't, well, if we can't work for now, we have to work for the future, which kind of scares me. That means next year we'll be working into even farther in the future. It's like, but, so I don't know about attracting agents. I've actually found that there's a bunch of agents, like smaller agencies with a lot of questionable acts that I'm not interested in. I've had to I mean, I used to be a answer every email, and in the last couple of years, I can't do it anymore. I can't keep up with it. But so I didn't answer that question. Sorry. How can local artists do more to help our venues make it through these times? I mean, just what we're doing here is it, you know, doing what we're doing here, what we're doing with Lemonade Park, what we're doing with streaming and sharing and trying to just, you know, cross promotion. That's really the thing. KKFI last weekend was a great example of cross promoting different streaming venues, and instead of doing it all one place, they moved it around. I thought that was really, really a cool way to, and it was different genre wise all over. I think that's just mashing things up and communicating as much as possible. Okay, Patrick's question, you said. No one has reached out. We right out of the bat in March, I was there right when the first shutdown rules came out, and I immediately was like, knowing what our overhead was and knowing, I'm like, well, and it right out the gate, it was like, this will probably only be 3 months. I'm like, how do we even survive 3 months? And so I started calling SBA immediately and just trying to see what was out there. And the things that were out there right off the bat were, I mean, they weren't attractive to me. They seemed really they just weren't right. And we just looked for everything we could and applied for everything we could right out the gate. The city never have. We tried, my friend Neil Smith, he started reaching out to the mayor's office, and he's been trying to get a meeting for a minute. He did have some talk with Neil. Neil's a promoter that I used to work for us, and then he went to AEG. Since then, AG has laid off everybody too. So, but he's still actively, he's the manager for Madison Ward Mama Bear. And he's still actively trying to get the city involved with supporting the venues. But there's really hasn't been anything other than, you know, outside of that national level. And I hope that goes to vote soon. I don't know. It got co-sponsored right before the break, and I thought I saw a vote from Cleaver come through last night. I mean, email, but it wasn't for that. It was for something else. So I don't know. That's all I got there, answering those questions.
Well, you know, I've heard rumors. So I talked to Alex Mallet the other day about kind of sort of a New Deal happening at the national level with some different bills that are waiting to be passed. Mm-hmm. Kind of like the WA New Deal programs. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I had one actually. The live stream events that you've done and things like that, are they proving to be something like viable for you, or is it just more so to have content to put on your social media and things like that?
So, I mean, the few that we've done from recordBar, we did they were free and they were donation based, and they both generated some money, not what if we had a live show would do. I mean, obviously it generated a few dollars to put in the bank and paid people that were there that night. And the bands made money as well. We just kind of set up here's the band's PayPal, here's that. And we actively, you know, were on the chat the whole time, making sure that people knew and driving people to the band's merch page and all these things. We've only done one event with the promo stream, and we did it from Lemonade Park. Down there, the infrastructure is like 1/10 of what we have at the club. So we haven't done one there yet that's been ticketed, but we did a ticketed one for Shiner last week that went really well, but we had to bring in a lot of it was a lot of work to pull it off. So viability, that one, I think for certain artists, it's going to happen. I think if we can get the budget together, actually I need to talk to Jeff about this, but Grand Marquis want to do a stream from Lemonade Park when they play with Victor and Penny coming up in a couple weeks. And we're just, we're looking at the budget to make sure if it makes sense, but so I don't know. The answer is, I think there's potential there, especially if you already have the infrastructure, like in the club we have it. It's very easy to set up and go. I think, on the way that this company, there's a lot of them out there now and they're coming left and right, but the way PromoStream has it set up, I think we have the ability to it can add a little bit. It's like we know people are a lot of people are not going to be comfortable even when the virus has died down. There's still going to be a lot of people that are like, man, I didn't mind watching it on my house, and I don't really want to go out there and spend, this extra money for parking and drinks and blah blah blah. I can sit in my house. So I mean that I think there is a dynamic shift we are going to see. But that doesn't mean they don't want to connect with music. So the tools are there. So we just have to see what happens in the future. I think it can, maybe a sold out, and definitely on sold out shows, you're going to see people going, well, I couldn't sell it. I couldn't get a ticket to the show, but I can watch it on my TV or whatever. So.
Steve, that's definitely what we're seeing as an organization is we have this whole new audience that just didn't want to get out of the house anyway. Mm-hmm. So in the future, when we're shoulder to shoulder again, we're just going to rent the theater an extra night and have a similar crew just do the live stream.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's why I asked the question, because I noticed I've done a few live stream shows myself. I noticed that there were people that had never gone to any of my actual shows that watched those. So I didn't know if it was something that a venue would actually be able to use,
Well, there's going to be contractual and licensing things that every show will have to consider, especially for the touring acts. And I think that'll be something that's going to add another level to my job, dealing with that. And there's been also a lot of artists reaching out, doing like Pigface, this industrial band out of Chicago. Martin Atkins, the drummer, he teaches a music business class at, I believe, Northwestern. Could be a little off on that, but he's always really quick to come up with new ideas. And they played the club last Thanksgiving, and it was a really successful show. And he does all these merch bundles, and it's really interesting how he does things. But he hit me up just yesterday. They're going to do a virtual tour, where they'll sell merchandise with the virtual tour T-shirt with every club that can partners with them on this thing. And then we basically are selling. We're going to sell streams through our base instead of trying to just him selling it out here. He reached out to the club like, we'll have the club sell it because they already have the database of the people that came to the last show. So let's partner on this. And really his whole mission was like, we want to help the clubs make sure that the venues can I think he's doing like a 30% share on it. And we haven't worked the details out yet, but like I said, it was an email yesterday, but I was like, hey, that's a great idea. That's really cool of him to do that. But I think his thought is, well, that's how we connect to the actual fans that were there a lot quicker than us trying to hunt them down ourselves. So maybe you'll see partnering like that coming up too from record, management and labels and bands and things. So I don't know. It's a whole new world, I think.
Patrick, you've got some good stuff here. Can you talk about this KC Neva?
Where am I at?
Yeah, I mean, Steve, I don't know if everybody here knows about NEVA too. That's the National Independent Venue Association. And so basically there's been legislation for quite a while to try to find a way to help these venue owners. And part of the challenge is you've all never by definition, you're an independent venue owner. So you do things the way you feel is appropriate to meet your venue needs, right? So it's all happened relatively quickly, maybe since like June, May, something like that. So you're waiting for the legislation. My question really though is, do you think we could do something like that in Kansas City? And I'm certainly not trying to add to your workload. I'm just thinking about the artists, the staff, the sound engineers, everybody who's involved in that industry. Because, you know, when people come to a show, they're going to get dinner before the show. People come to the show. There are all sorts of other things that are going to be impacted by that. And you can't just push it aside. You know, you mentioned the original rule, like the 10-10-10 rule. I mean, that was just ridiculous. So that was my original question. Like, did the city ever come back and say, well, what would you suggest? How can we partner with you? How can we support you? Which I feel they're doing for some other types of businesses. They just haven't really done that for you. So if there's a way, organizations here in Kansas City, whether they're record labels, whether they're artists, whether they're organizations like Heartland Song Network, anybody, what could we do perhaps to make our own sort of coalition to let the city know this is what we need? This keeps a lot of people fed and feeling productive, and it brings a whole lot of joy to a lot of people as well.
Mm-hmm.
In a nutshell.
I don't know. I've never, you know, personally, well, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I think something like that could be put together. I know that the mayor has, I read about it. I'm not really involved with the stuff, but with his arts council, I think that's kind of, I don't know if that's kind of centered on visual arts or if there's a component for music. Maybe someone else on here knows more about what that is. I know there's been some controversy over some of the things some of the budget cuts on stuff. And I think my guess by and large, they haven't really reached out to it because I don't think the money's not there. I think the city's, I mean, I know exactly what we normally pay them in taxes by this time of the year, and they've got none of it because we've had, you know, I mean, from recordBar, miniBar, you know. So that's, I think, you know, putting a group of people together to brainstorm, I think would be good thing to do for the city if you could get someone that wanted to take the time or felt like they had any options. But I feel like not giving them an out, but I think they, you know, there's a lot going on, you know.
My thought is not directly asking them for cash like we asked the federal government either. I think it's using their voice, their platform, their reach to let the community know that these institutions are hurting and these are real people behind there. And there are still people working for the city getting paid.
Yeah.
So I just don't really know how about to go. I hear you can just, you know, send Mayor Lucas a text and he's receptive to those at times. So,
and that's what I was mentioning Neil Smith earlier. That's what he did. And he responded, but he sent him over to his chief of staff, and chief of staff was going to set up a meeting, but I just don't know where they are on that. You know, this has been a couple months back, but Neil hit me up yesterday.
If you want to ask him to bother me or anybody on here, I'd be glad to. I think that's one key thing that we talked about on our podcast too, Steve, is and you mentioned there's so many key component puzzle pieces here in Kansas City. And Bo and I talked about that a few weeks ago. It's really just connecting some of these dots. Mm-hmm. It's just not necessarily the best circumstances to be doing it right now. On the other hand, it's more timely than ever.
Yeah. He's working with KCPT right now, he says, with Flatlanders to do a piece on Save Our Stages, the NEVA, you know, that's mm-hmm. But he's being really active. So maybe I'd get him involved with connect some dots, like you say. So, sure.
Okay.
That's one of the reasons a handful of us really started this Heartland Song Network thing is we had gone to lots of meetings with city officials, with the arts councils, with asks and suggestions, and you know, there was rarely ever any sort of follow-up. So this is definitely kind of a DIY effort. And I love Ralph's suggestions. Can we use Heartland Song Network as a vehicle to lobby for venues and artists. Now, I would have a lot of faith in that.
Yeah, I mean, getting involved with it, there's a link to NIVA there. I mean, they've been, you know, probably one of the first, I mean, they're the first lobbyists for independent venues ever. And they've been doing some really hard, good work. And I think aligning, you know, showing them some support could help, you know. But the more voices behind them, the better chance we have of getting this thing passed. But I don't know. What did Jessica say? I'm not much for public speaking either. I can talk at a computer, but that's great. Who did you read that? I read that.
Yeah, Patrick can talk.
Yeah, Patrick.
I bet Erin would probably be willing to
she's good at that.
Get in on that.
Yeah, let's make it happen.
Which I think having a nice cross section of venue owners, artists, everybody who's impacted too, record stores, how this is all kind of very tightly connected, actually, not even loosely, tightly connected. So I think it'd be good to have a broad range, not to have too many people talking, but get a lot of different voices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we all realize that, like I said earlier, I mean, even if there was like a vaccine tomorrow, this is the impact on this is going to be a year or more, you know. So that it doesn't. I don't think we give up as soon as, you know, the rules change or it's all looking to the future. Great.
Steve, would you mind just sharing just the technical aspects of how you're doing your live stream? I've seen a couple of them and I've really enjoyed them. Who's crewing that?
There are two different guys that we work with. There's a guy named Jay Lindhorst and a guy named Rick Groom. Rick does a lot of stuff down at Knuckleheads, and Jay's actually done a couple down there too. So we have at the club, we have the Google Fiber, and we have a couple cameras already that are just there all the time, and a couple ambient mics in the room. And then Jay usually brings in either of them. They just bring in a couple other mics, couple other cameras, and they have a little switcher system and a mixer, and get a feed off the board and put in some of the room ambience, and then they pretty much just direct it themselves, kind of sit there and kind of have fun moving the cameras around. Gives it a little more, you know, energy than just a static shot. Mm-hmm. It's not, you know, it is what it is, and it's kind of fun. Both guys have a different style that they like to do, so. That's really, I don't know much about the technical side of it other than that, you know. At Lemonade Park, it's just Spectrum down there, and so the upload is just right on the edge of what we can do for a 720 stream. And I didn't see it glitch out at that last one ever, but basically just guys that care and want to listen and make sure the mix is right, and watching the feed, making sure, that's the big thing, is watching your chat feed and making sure you're watching the comments, and because your customer can give you a lot of advice on how things sound, and you can fix it on the fly, you know.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about the difference between Eventbrite and this promo tickets model, and how long have they been around?
Promo Tickets is pretty much brand new. I don't have Will Royals' his name. I'm not going to remember the name of the festival. he has a couple music fests. He's got one that's down in Arkansas, and he's worked in the industry for a long time, and decided to do this thing that just kind of flip the system on, and I think essentially it's kind of what Eventbrite tried to trick us into. This is how I feel. I'll be pretty candid. Maybe I don't want to get sued by Eventbrite or anything, but things switched in the ticketing industry. It went kind of crazy over the last 5 years, where bigger companies were buying these smaller companies that started these ticketing platforms, and then they would absorb this and say they're going to bring this in and offer clubs this and Eventbrite. We switched over right when we went downtown, and they kind of scooped us from Ticketfly by promising a bunch of these new applications that you can add on and things that were marketing tools and stuff. And that was kind of how they got us to switch over. And then before we switched over, like we kind of signed the contract early, and before we switched over, they bought out the ticketing thing we were on, and it's just been a nightmare. They just were having the hardest time. And then instead of adding all these things, these applications, they had them, but you had to pay for them. So they became add-ons, and the whole while they're also still having these high service charges and that creep up. And so I haven't been that pleased with how that turned out. And then this COVID has exaggerated it. And then what his model is kind of the same thing. It's like, well, how about we don't have fees, and it's just a smaller level, and it's ability to make money, but not on these these massive big company scales where they're making their microtransactions, and they're holding onto your money for this long, and they're just filling the banks like a credit card company. Basically, is really all they are. So where Promotix is more like, well, if you need this level of, and I feel like I'm shilling for them, like I don't have a contract. I don't have a contract with them or anything. I mean, there's no contracts, there's nothing. You just sign up, and then if you want the marketing component, you subscribe to it. You subscribe to this, and you can turn them on and off when you need them. They also have a really interesting in-app merchandising section, and we got a lot of cool tools, and a lot of the things, customer reward programs that Eventbrite had kind of promised, but they've simplified it. So I'm looking forward to working with them as soon as I can. I just have to, but mostly because there's no contract. I mean, that's kind of nice too. So if it doesn't give us the results, we can, do other things. But
okay, I've posted this link. Is this them?
Where's the link? And I've seen it
In the chat. Oh wait, sorry. Here we go.
Yes, that's them. We're pretty certain. Yep.
Okay. So this is a guy you said he was out of North Arkansas?
No, he runs a festival down there somewhere, and I'm not going to remember the name of it right now. It's not, I can remember. But he's out of like Florida or actually out of, he's actually out of St. Thomas or something like that. But his tech guy is, I don't know. I don't have details on that, but I've had a bunch of conversations with them, and so far I don't like what they look like. So We have not ticketed anything with them because I still have our Eventbrite contract, but I don't have a streaming contract with Eventbrite. So we did that Shiner show with them, and I've got a couple more coming up that I'm going to try to do and kind of dig into some of the other applications they have, the merchandising one particularly, and customer reward program.
I would love to get out of Eventbrite.
Yeah. Colton just posted. They actually have a thing at the bottom of their site that compares them, and it shows you it. You can actually do like a cost analysis of how you can make your. I mean, you can still put a fee on there for yourself, but they don't take an extra fee that jumps it up. So it saves your customers money and makes you more money. It's really what their comparison shows.
Right on.
Cool.
Well, we're coming up on the hour here. Anyone else have anything else before we let Steve go about his day of endless live stream webinars?
Do you mind if I pop the links to our stuff in here?
Yeah.
If everybody would share this, it'd be great. We have a Kickstarter campaign going on right now for another 2 weeks. Kind of celebrate us going into our 15 year. We're selling merchandise, special limited edition merchandise that we'll be making. We're selling a bunch more memorabilia on there. Just trying to raise. We're basically just trying to raise enough money. We want to honor our lease. We don't want to default on our lease, and our landlord is trying to be as cool as possible, but he's starting to get to the end of his rope as far as not his patience, but as far as his finances as well. And that's kind of our goal, is to try to pay for rent for the next 6 months, and then do things to sustain the utilities and stuff, do events and small things and streaming that will pay for the other things to get us hopefully to springtime when the tours come back. And so that's what those links are, to try to help us. So if you could share those around, we'd really, really appreciate it.
We will do that. All right. Well, I guess that's it. This will be archived, and I'll send everybody a little YouTube playlist. I guess this is our 5th one. So we're developing a kind of a little evergreen library of different topics. So I'll be sure that you get that. And Diana, you asked me to be sure and save the chat, right? Okay, done. Thank you all.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Cheers.
Thanks,
Thanks so
Steve.
much.
Thanks, Bo.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Have a good day.